What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Talent Loop, powered by Sync to Hire, a platform that is built to help recruiters and hiring managers work better together to make smarter hiring decisions. In this episode, I continue my conversation with Cailean Bailey, where we shift our focus to the future of hiring. We dig into the role of AI in recruiting, where automation helps, and where human judgment should not be removed. We also talked about one of the most overlooked factors in hiring success: trust. The trust between recruiters and hiring managers, the trust in the process, and trust in the decisions being made. If you're working through technology and process to get better hiring outcomes, this is the conversation for you. Let's jump back in. If you were redesigning a hiring process from scratch today, what would it look like?
Well, I would absolutely start with the internal process, because I think a lot of companies are asynchronous, remote, hybrid. A few are in office still, but even then, we might be in office, but we're still fighting for these people's time on their calendar and getting time to focus on interviewing. Even though it's important to them, it is, like I said, a fraction still. So I want to get, first and foremost, the hiring leader in the room, where we're like really talking about, like, why do you need this role and what problem they're going to solve, or what are they going to take off of your plate? In our case, that's really critical, because it's easy to have multiple functions rolling up into the same person. So I'm designing an experience where every phase has an inflection point of what have we validated, what do we still need to validate, and who can be the person to validate that. I'm not big on changing interview processes or interview loops, but I think we can tinker with some of the questions and focus areas that we ask, as long as we're asking a similar set of questions to each candidate for obvious reasons. I would design something that has very clear instructions on what are the functional requirements of the role, and let's reverse engineer questions that are going to satisfy or disqualify that candidate from this role because they haven't functionally done this. And then that also comes with training of, like, is this candidate speaking in a hypothetical? I would do this, which is okay. But what's ideal is, like, I have and I will. And here's what I've done in a congruent type of role or environment. And then you get to the point where I always recommend recruiter, hiring manager, team/peer, possibly if it's technical or something that's very specific, some type of case study or assessment that's not super long. Just a prove it type of phase. And then final executive sign off or senior leadership sign off. So looking at like 4 cumulative hours for a non-executive role.
So when you say prove it, I used to work for Connexa, and we had an assessment called Prove It. And it brought back a quick little hot flash of memory there. How much of this needs to be tech-based? How much of the hiring process should be based or relying on technology versus a human pushing this forward?
That's a really good point of the this idea of AI versus automation. I don't like AI being any sort of decision maker. I like it to support a human inference. So if, like, I have to qualify this by saying I'm in a place where I can still review every resume. I don't work at a 20,000 person company where they're getting tens of thousands of applicants. Like, I can't even speak to what that world is like. So I think that we still are able to get humans in the same room to talk about their thoughts and feelings and what they've been able to validate or not validate in a recruitment process. What automation, or actually what AI can do actually is help, like what we've created is something called a fit check, which is the resume. It's all in our ecosystem. So it doesn't really matter what LLM you're using. For us, Our example is with Teams, Outlook, Copilot as a Microsoft shop, where we can pull in all of these different meeting notes, um, intake, debrief, job descriptions, conversations even that have happened on Teams, and we can package that into something where we can put a resume into that, into the fit check agent, and it will help us identify. It won't make a decision. It will help us identify questions that are important to ask or validate or look out for this candidate. In that regard, we are using AI to augment the human interview experience so that we know like hyper targeted areas, and then I can automate things based on that keep the notes flowing, the feedback loop flowing, the debriefs flowing, and the candidate triggers and emails and phases of the interview process. So I still don't think anybody should ever outsource a decision or their intuition to an LLM.
Yeah, well, we were talking. So two things on that. One, earlier we were talking about usually the first muscle currently is to go to a chat GPT or a Claude or something to verify or justify what you're doing or thinking, just in general life, right? It's no longer Googling. You're going to these models, but that's your validation, right? And it's like we've outsourced the ability or the muscle for us to make a decision without validating whatever that is that we're researching. The the question I have for you then is, at what point is, well, let me ask you this. Do you find that the hiring teams are more invigorated leveraging what you've built? So you're pulling in notes from all these different area conversations, notes that have been taken throughout the hiring process. They don't have to go and read and make that assessment themselves. They can now pull it in. They can now get the assessment. They can get the questions, and that gives them the ability to move quicker and faster, so they're not avoiding the work.
They're not starting from zero when it's a paper resume. Actually, there's a line in the article that talks about the hiring manager reading the resume on the way to the conference room to interview as their prep. So ideally, what we're trying to do
Very
is
true.
We're trying to highlight the key areas. Like, this is why this person is here, and that's layered on top of my or our team's like gut and intuition as well. So that's where these like cases become easier. Of like, I'm layering on some objectivity of what a chat or robot can do for us. I'm layering in my intuition and somebody that is a trusted TA partner here, and then you're packaging it up to say, okay, team, like this is how this person got here, and this is what you're going to focus on. And here is a really nicely plated thing for you, so you don't have to read a 2-page resume, every single line, every single data point. I've already teased out those things in conversation, pulled them out via some tooling assistance, and I've, based on everything that I know and everything in my brain and in my ecosystem here is what is going to maximize the time for you and this candidate in this hiring process or in this interview. Right. Specifically.
And the hiring managers take well to that.
They've loved it so far. It's just like it's 2 layers of validation. Me, my intuition, which is trusted, my experience, which is trusted, and then you layer that into some other objective ways to validate this. Right. Plus, what it also does is one of the blank page can be the scariest thing when you're interviewing. It's like, what do I ask this person?
Yeah.
Like, what should we ask this person? There's too much to ask because this person's been doing X for 20 years. If you can not have to start from zero with what questions you're going to ask or what areas you're focused on, then that just like it frees up more mental capacity in your brain to know what to ask, which means you hopefully know what to receive and what to look for.
Yeah, well, and it allows you to actively listen, right? Like you say, like we discussed earlier, this isn't the hiring manager's job, right? They have a job. This is something they do as a means to hire new people, but they're also producing product or whatever they're doing. And so they could be thinking about what product they're putting in the production in 6 hours, but they have to handle this interview. And so by giving them this information, it allows them to really focus on what they're doing at that point in time. And it's awkward. It's
It makes
awkward going into an
context.
interview.
Yeah, and it makes context switching a little bit smoother because that's what these people do all day. And it makes that transition from a conversation about a complex product issue or a bug or whatever to going into an interview. Now you're all of a sudden like, okay, I don't have to start from zero. I can more easily transition into the next activity.
Yeah, it's like having a speechwriter for the president. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's going and he's reading. Well, I should say he doesn't know. I just like any president really doesn't know. Like they have a speech and they read it and they move on. So you mentioned something about trust, and I want to talk about that real quick. You said something to the effect of your ability or your skills are trusted. You're trusted in your evaluation. And so when you hand that information over, right, when you hand the assessments over to the hiring team, that in conjunction with the fact that they trust you allows them to do what they need to do and trust that it's the proper thing to do. What if they don't trust you? Is it a trust the process, or if they don't trust a human, in your case, does that next part work?
It's really good. I mean, I've been fortunate that to build trust for me, it's a lot of output, it's a lot of reps, and it's a lot of recognizing patterns. That could be patterns recognized here at my current company or patterns over the aggregate of my career. So if they don't if you don't trust you, then I think that's probably signals a bigger issue of how do we build that trust? So the question becomes, how can I build your trust, and how can I use the tools that I have available to me to help package something together where what I do provide to you is more trustworthy than the current state. If trust is broken, then I think you're starting in the red, so you need to do some remedial activity to get back into that. I'm thinking of like the Meet the Parents, the trust tree, or the circle of trust.
The circle
of trust. Yeah. But I think the way we think about AI and amount of inputs it takes to get something right, the same is true for humans. Like everything becomes an input where if I'm not trusted, well, why not? Like, well, they want to see more of this, or they want to see more data reflected in my notes or something like that. It's like, okay, that's an input. That's an input, which means that I don't have to change entirely, but I'm moving to the point where we're more in parallel versus on different tracks.
Right. Cailean, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate it, man. And good luck with all the new hiring process and the article coming out. Hope to talk with you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you.